Játészki Pelletier ma idézkísni billigan a bushes chin, cheatney Jay billigan Noah. As I fumble through my intro here, we're going to talk about Florida guard Alijah Martin. I keep wanting to say Florida Atlantic. I mean, no, he won the national title with Florida, but it still hasn't sunk in. Alijah Martin, one of my favorite players for quite some time now. We made him stellar in a lot of regards. So we're going to get into Alijah Martin right about now. Alijah Martin comes from North Pike High School in Summit, Mississippi. He's from Summit, Mississippi. At North Summit High School, he played both football and basketball. I'm sure you probably heard this one, but it's still a fantastic story. He was the quarterback at a North Summit High School, or North Pike High School, excuse me. I was going to say North Summit because it's Summit, Mississippi, but it's North Pike High School in Summit, Mississippi. As the quarterback for North Pike High School, Alijah Martin threw for 2,100 passing yards and had 20 touchdowns. He also rushed for 1,300 yards and had 13 TDs on the ground. So accounted for 33 TDs, 20 in the air and 13 on the ground. In basketball, though, he somehow was better. 25.4 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, which will be a running thing. Alijah Martin, one of the best rebounders at the guard spot, probably ever in college basketball. I mean, that just showed out even in high school tape. And then 3.4 steals per game. Alijah Martin's been getting it on defense and on the glass for quite some time. And really, I don't know how long this episode is going to go just because I feel like it's like, do you want a guy that can play defense? Do you want a guy that can rebound? Do you want a guy that can shoot threes? Well, then Alijah Martin is your guy. This past season at Florida, winning the national title, I might add 14.4 points per game for Alijah Martin, 4.5 rebounds per game, 2.2 assists per game, 1.5 steals, 0.2 blocks per game, and 1.4 turnovers per game. Shooting splits for Alijah Martin were 57.3% from 2-point range, a career high, 35% from 3-point range, and then 76.1% from the free throw line. All of this translates into a true shooting percentage of 57.6% for Alijah Martin. Defense and three-pointers. I mean, rebounding and three-pointers. Really, I guess I should just make it three, the trifecta. Defense, rebounding, three-pointers. Start with the three-pointers. Every single season in college basketball, Alijah Martin had a 3-point attempt rate of 53.3% or greater. This last season at Florida was 54.1%, so no different. Really, the true shooting percentage, there was only 1 year where it was under 57%, and that was the fourth year, Florida Atlantic senior season, 53.6%. Every other season, and he was in college basketball 5 years, so 4 out of the 5 years for Alijah Martin, true shooting percentage of 57.4% or better. Did not waste many shots. And the usage rate was at 21% or greater every single year. At Florida Atlantic took a little bit more of a lead guy role by the Final Four year, which I believe was his junior season, 25.7%. That was really like one of the standout years. I know John L. Davis, Vladislav Golden was on that team. A couple of the guys stood out, but for a lot of us, we fell in love with Alijah Martin more at that point if you didn't like him already. I mean, at that point, it was undeniable. He's essentially playing power forward for that Florida Atlantic team. And why that's a big deal, if you don't know, Alijah Martin measured in at 6'1.5" at the combine. So he's 6'2" in shoes, 208.4 pounds with a 6'7.5" wingspan. That's why I highlighted the rebounding thing. Like his ability to get on the glass at that size is just undeniable and uncharacteristic. It's just, he plays like he's a foot taller. Seriously. Like he just knows how to get rebounds, both from positioning wise, fight, and physicality. That Florida Atlantic team, part of the reason why Dusty May is such a great coach is, I mean, most great coaches, they look at their personnel, they understand who they are, and then they build the scheme and everything around them. It's why Dusty turned around the Michigan program and just 1 year, we'll see. I mean, we'll see if it continues. But in just one season, he got them back to the tournament to win some games and stuff because he found the parts and then crafted the system around him. It's not like he just brought in his guys and had to run his system. No. And it's that way with Alijah Martin. He understood this is a guy that, sure, he's point guard size. Sure, he can do those things. And I could just play him at point guard, but I have a John L. Davis. I have these other great guards. I'm in Florida Atlantic. I ain't dealing with 6, 7 dudes that are just, kicking down my door and filling out my bench. And so he took an Elijah Martin, highlighted those positive things to crash the glass, shoot threes, and play tremendous defense to be this undersized power forward that led to a Final Four run at Florida Atlantic. And then this year, I know Elijah Martin didn't play power forward. He was a guard this year, but still contributed to a national title. Defensive, or I don't know why I keep wanting to say defensive rebounding. It's like in my mind, I'm getting caught up with like defense and rebounding converging. So I want to say it out to both. But rebounding, freshman season is the only season where Elijah Martin had under 170 total rebounds. Freshman season was the only season where Elijah Martin had under 36 offensive rebounds, and freshman season is the only season where Elijah Martin had under 130 defensive rebounds. Again, man, I really like the way that Elijah Martin rebounds, and it's one of those standout skills that Jam and I have just said time and time again, like, go look back at the guys that end up making it, even if they're just kind of end the bench dudes. One of the things they have in common is they know how to rebound. Why might that be a thing that tips off NBA players versus non-NBA players? I think especially for the fringe guys, it comes down to desire and fight and winning. The game of inches. This might be the game of millimeters, where you just need a guy that can end a possession, or you just need a guy that gives you a second chance, and it's always on the glass. And when your point guard can be another guy like that, that sends a message to the other team, and that sends a message to the rest of your locker room that, like, this is what we're dealing with at every level, to have these slim margins for error and these slim areas on the margins that help us get like 1 or 2 more wins. So that's why I harp on rebounding. And when I come across a prospect like Elijah Martin, why I highlight it, it's like, look, you don't see a guy at this size, at this position very often that can do these kind of things on the glass. The other thing is 3-pointers. Freshman season is the only season for Elijah Martin where he took under 196 threes. And then his senior year, 4th year at Florida Atlantic is the only season where he shot under 34.9%. Really, that freshman season you can kind of throw out. It was only 193 minutes, so it's such a small sample size. Every other season, Elijah Martin's played 949 minutes or more. Sophomore season, 210 threes, 40% from three. Junior season, 196 threes, 37.2% from three. Senior year, 4th year, Florida Atlantic, 207 threes, 33.8%. And then this year at Florida, career high, 226 three-point attempts at 35%. I know that seems average, but anytime you're over 200, over 220, and you can maintain average efficiency, that means you know how to shoot the ball. I'll say that again and again and again. And I believe, this season too, Elijah Martin took a career high in all free field goal attempts. 226 from three, 192 from 2-point range, and then shot a career high. I mean, again, throw out the 66.7% in 193 minutes as a freshman. Career high to me is this final season, 5th year Florida, 57.3% from 2-point range on 192 shots. And that's the definite area where Elijah Martin showed out and was like, I can be more of a shooter. And when I'm surrounded with a little bit more guys where I don't have to play at a position, this is what I end up looking like. And what it end up looking like. Shot chart here. Putting Drake Powell and Zion James on either side of Elijah Martin. Elijah Martin, has the best rim percentage. He's also the guy between Drake Powell and Zion James, both guys I think that are undersized playing out of position too at the power forward spot and more defensively inclined. Drake Powell is obviously going to go above an Elijah Martin for size, athleticism, pedigree, all that stuff. Zion James seems like the end of round 2, along with Elijah Martin, where I've seen him mocked. I have Elijah Martin at 28, though. I really think this is somebody at the end of round 1 like you should buy into. And if he does go undrafted or he does go later in round 2, I think it's somebody that very clearly, very early on, people are going to be like, yeah, should have bought into the shooting, the rebounding, and the defense. And also, he took 108 shots at the rim at Florida, sank 77 of them for 71.3%. Again, that's like great center numbers, 71.3% at the rim. Fantastic. Elijah Martin really took advantage of an Alex Condon, a Walter Clayton Jr., all these other teammates he had where it's like, oh, okay, the paint isn't packed. Oh, okay, I don't need to be going up against guys that are like half a foot taller than me to shoot 77 of 108 shots at the rim, 71.3%. Great. 26 of 62 in the paint, like the runner floater game and stuff there. Not so much with his physicality. I wish he would get to the line a little bit more. And this is something that I really feel like I wish I could have gone to bat for more and feel more confident that it can get better. But 30.7% was Elijah Martin's career high free throw attempt rate in his junior season. Yeah, not something I'm necessarily going to go to bat for. I think he'll get there enough, but it's not necessarily a main part of his game. 117 total free throw attempts, career high again this year, 5th year at Florida. So that's a nice indication that you're like, okay, at least he's able to generate some pressure, but if he's in the paint, 41.9%, not so great. And again, we're arguing for guys that are defensively inclined, that are supplementary role players. You want them to shoot great at the rim. You definitely did that. You don't want him taking too many weird mid-range shots. Only 22 in the mid-range, 7 of 22. And throw that stuff out. It's not going to matter. You don't want an Elijah Martin shooting in the mid-range anyway. And then above the break threes, 57 of 168 shots, which is 33.9%. And then from the corners, 21 to 55, 38.2%. Break those down to these medium zones. This is where like the 3-point shots, I think, come a little bit concerning. It's just because you can see one area in particular from above the break is not necessarily carrying the percentage, but significantly better than the rest. 22, 52 shots, top of the key, 42.3%. The other two, right wing, 13 of 42, 31%. Left wing, 22 of 74. The shot he took the most from three, 29.7%. So on the one hand, you're like, okay, I'm glad he took that many shots. I'm glad he can hit them at the top of the key. On the other hand, you're like, woof, that's 3 areas on the court, or 2 areas on above the break anyway, where I don't know that you really need to guard him. Again, this is where film study comes into play. I think overall, from the Florida Atlantic tape to this year at Florida, confidence and somebody who absolutely needs to be guarded. Also playing in the SEC, going from Florida Atlantic to Florida in the SEC, you're playing against a different level of athlete. You are an undersized guy. It would be one thing if he went to SEC and didn't increase the volume of attempts, didn't end up being a primary guy in the offense. He did. It was 2 of those things. So on the one hand, I want to hand wave the like 29.7% and 31% in the wings areas. But on the other hand, I'm like, this screams supplementary role player and end of round 1 type of guy, to where it's like, he's going to take them and the percentage is going to be totally fine, average at least. And he's going to take a lot of them and sink a lot of them. But there are going to be some areas on the court that he's going to do really good in and others that not so much. Corners, left corner, 14 of 33, 42.4%, great. Right corner, 7 of 22, 31.8%, not so great. But go back to the Florida Atlantic stuff there. This is somebody that if you want to park him in the corners, I feel like he's going to be totally fine there. And really, if he's just good from the corners and top of the key, your money there. And he's going to take them everywhere else and sink enough of them that he has to be guarded. Yeah, and if he didn't have the track record before this year of being a good 3-point shooter, I would be like, I don't know so much. But he has been every single year, no matter the role he's been in, whether he's been a supplementary dude in Florida Atlantic, playing out of position, have to play up at power forward, or being here at Florida, where he is alongside another undersized guard in Walter Clayton, and having to play a little bit out of position, like at shooting guard, but still more in his natural position. There's just a lot to like about Alijah Martin. You know, the comp I wanted to give Alijah Martin really was Jose Alvarado, just because I do feel like the fight and everything is the same, but the 2 areas where I'm like, I just don't feel that's fair to either guy. Jose is a way better playmaker than an Alijah Martin. Alijah Martin's always been asked to be either shooting guard or power forward-ish, and then never posted an assist rate better than 15.5%. And by the way, that was only his freshman season in that small 193 minutes. Every other season, it was 12.3% or lower. On the other hand, the turnover rate, last 2 seasons, 10.4% even. And every year, it's been 13% or under. So on the one hand, not making a lot of plays, never really played point guard as the guy to handle and generate the main looks for everybody. On the other hand, really low turnover rate. Never posted more than 62 turnovers in a season, and that came in his junior season. Last 2 years, 48 turnovers, fourth year, senior year at Florida Atlantic, and then 55 turnovers this last year at Florida. Really good taking care of the ball. And especially this year at Florida, I think the system and him having guys he can kick it out to a little bit more and be more reliable. 82 assists to 55 turnovers. That was his by far best assist to turnover ratio. I think that at least gives you an indication that it's like, okay, probably team context and getting a little bit better as a playmaker. But again, another guy that proves the other side of the coin that, point guards are born, not made, because you can play him at point guard. You can put him there because he's that size, but he ain't going to create. And he's been in college basketball 5 years. He's gotten to see the court better, got to take care of the ball better, but he still ain't a playmaker and ain't a point guard because his main role is to be tough, play great defense, continue to space out the floor, and then take care of the ball, which is absolutely something you want from him. This is going to be a funny comp, but I comped with the comp for Alijah Martin was the Royce O'Neal of the guard position. If you don't know what that means, Royce O'Neal is listed at like 6'4", 220, and really he's played power forward, stretch forward for a lot of his career. Then you watch the game and you can see like, oh, that guy's not that tall, but you're like, man, he really rebounds the ball well. I mean, he's been such a great supplementary role player that KD went out of his way to say, I want to play with him in Brooklyn. I want you to train him to Phoenix because this is the guy I wanted to play make with. And he plays tough defense, but his main asset comes as spacing the floor and making a difference on the glass. I mean, just a tough dude that plays out of position at 6'4", 220. Even at small forward, that's a smaller guy, but because he can rebound so well, because he's a fantastic floor spacer and he plays tough defense, he has carved out a nice long NBA career to where even guys like KD make a difference. I think Alijah Martin can do that, but at the guard position to where it's like, yes, he'll take care of the ball enough. You really watch him and you're like, man, that guy really rebounds well, even though he's smaller than everybody else out there at his position. And the main thing, he is a fantastic three-point shooter. And the thing with Royce too is like the percentages were good, but he didn't take too many threes in college. I mean, it was a little bit different game, but Alijah Martin has that ahead of him. I mean, averaging like 196 threes or more the last 4 years in college basketball. Yeah, ahead of the curve on knowing how to take them, knowing when to take them, and being a primary floor spacer for your teammates. So I really like Alijah Martin again. 28 is where I have him. I really think at the end of round one, this is somebody that you should invest in because of the trifecta: defense, three-point shooting, and rebounding. Final thing on Alijah Martin, some things to look at on YouTube. College Basketball Scouting has a nice draft highlight package on Alijah Martin. Again, like I said in the last episode, that Alijah Martin versus Max Shulga versus Tyrese Proctor Upside Swings episode. Definitely go check that out. See two of our guys here, Proctor and Alijah Martin, in these last two episodes come up. NoCeilingsNBA.com. Stephen Gillespie had a fantastic interview with Alijah Martin that came out about 2 weeks ago. Definitely go check that out. Again, great kid, great interview from Stephen. Did a great job with that. And then the last three ones to look at are from Sleepers Media, Alijah Martin Scouting Report, Talking Ball, Alijah Martin's 2025 NBA Draft Profile, and then my guy, Hardwood Hoops Central's NBA Draft Green Room, 1 hour, 58 minutes, 32 seconds on Alijah Martin this year at Florida. Man, so this is a fun film session to look at with all the physicality, the threes, and just this rocked up dude helping Florida win a national title. Final thing, Off the Ball podcast for my guy, Chris LeBron. Shout out Chris LeBron, who's been on the show quite a bit. He had a nice podcast about a week or two ago with Stephen Gillespie of NoCeilingsNBA.com, where they do get into Alijah Martin there. So definitely go check out that episode with Chris LeBron, Off the Ball podcast. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Off the Ball podcast with Chris LeBron and guest Stephen Gillespie. Definitely go check that out. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us here. Next time we're gonna close out the draft 60-ish on draft day with Cedric Howard, somebody who I've taken a long time to get a draft profile on and wanted to wait until the last minute to, number one, look at all the film, get my thoughts on Cedric Howard, and address the late riser thing. Because I mean, what, 3 months ago, ain't nobody talking about Cedric Howard. 4 months ago, nobody's considering him for a top, 15 pick. So I want to get all that in there too, because I'm not gonna lie, the guys that pop up like that late in the process, I always have a problem with, and it is a deficiency of mine and things I always want to address to be like, okay, let's not just bury them and go with your, feelings. Let's be objective. Look at the evidence. Look back at guys that had the same kind of profile and how did they end up turning out. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. We'll catch you next time on Cedric Howard. I'm going to